into that. And I think this, again, the complexity is hit our industry particularly hard because we've got the end of transition. We've now got customs and export to deal with. That's probably been a headache and a half with everybody. And I think there are quite a few people who've just said, actually, this is too much for me. We're done with it. How on earth? Where's the back door? Where's the exit? And whether it's a sensible thing to do after. I mean, obviously, this has been such a prolonged period of time. And I think there is obviously, we have conversations with people all the time saying, this is how I'm feeling. Is it a good idea for us to do that? And I'm not sure where we're going to go from here. Or I was going to retire, I was going to leave it for years, but actually I'm going to go and do that now. I mean, I think, obviously that's quite an extreme decision to kind of make. But I think if you are thinking, actually, I don't know how we're going to continue, and I think we'll come on to a couple of other things I wanted to ask you about on that side of, particularly from this very low point that people may be at the moment. I mean, what happens, what would you might warn people about before you say, actually, look, it's all too much, I've had enough? What kind of things might you warn them about at this point, do you think, before they make a decision?
There's a lot of elements in your question in terms of how are people feeling, what options are available to them, what risks do they got to worry about. So just trying to break that down into pieces. Certainly I've had more conversations about exit in the last year than I've had in the previous 5. It has really focused people's attention on, do I want to do this anymore? Can I do this anymore? Is the business gone beyond the point of repair? Am I just old enough that I should be thinking about cashing in my chips? Because 2 or 3 years ago, the machine ran itself. I turned up, I did a bit, I made some money. It was relatively easy to run businesses 2 or 3 or 4 years ago. Now it isn't, and it's not likely to be. That has focused people's minds on, maybe I should be thinking about my retirement plans. So it's definitely brought it again to front of mind. It's made people think about it. Some of those it's because they won't survive, and there are some really important issues, probably too much for this conversation, but really important issues about managing a business in that terminal period. Because if you just go, I'm done, I've had enough, the odds are that your personal guarantees will kick in, that you'll lose a lot of money, that you'll break some rules. The management of closure and failure, if that's done well, there are opportunities in that to protect wealth and to extract money. So if it's game over, get advice, because rather than just lock the doors and walk away, there is a huge opportunity to protect your wealth, make some money, but it's probably worth something to somebody. Even if you've had enough of it, it's probably worth something to somebody. So if any of your listeners or any of your members are thinking, I think I'm just about to walk off the edge of that cliff, then get advice, because there are things you could do to make that a less damaging process. If it's people who said, I just don't know if I want to do this anymore, the problem for a lot of people I talk to is they don't understand the range of options for exit that exist. They think it's carry on or sell the whole lot to a trade player. And there are multiple options in between. You can have management buy-ins, management buyouts. There's a lot of venture capital money out there at the moment. People who've got money who can't get a great return on it, looking for businesses to buy a slice of, buy the whole of. Lots of money out there. Even for the management buy-ins and management buyouts, there is money which is a little bit more easy to get and cheaper than it's probably ever been for senior employees to be able to raise a bit of money to take it off the existing owner. So lots and lots of options, way too many to get into detail here. One, for example, that is quite unusual that we've done a couple of times in the last 6 months or so. You can set up what's called an employee ownership trust, and the owners sell their shares. They have to, the employee ownership trust has to have more than 50% of the shares, but it sells either 51% or 100%, whatever the owner decides they want to do. They sell their shares to that employee ownership trust. The employee ownership trust has no money, so it can't pay for them, so it has to borrow or lend the money, and therefore you get what we call loan notes. As the business makes money, it pays off that debt, and the owner gradually gets his money out over a period of 3, 4, 5, 10 years, whatever is appropriate. But if you do it that way, that is completely free of tax. And that's, again, one of those things where you go, well, I'd quite like to leave it to my team if I can save a chunk of tax and I can sell most of it, but keep a little bit for me as an interest or something. That's quite an interesting way for some exiting owners to see the way their business evolves to the next generation. But I don't know anyone who knew about that when I've had those conversations. They just think it's an all or nothing, keep or sell. So I guess in terms of the broader question is find out what the options are, get a valuation of your business, understand the different ways that you could exit either completely or partially. And you may well find that there are options in there where you go, well, that's okay. I could work with that. I don't really want to go completely, but I want to take some money off the table. There are probably options in that mix that you could make work for you, whether it's new money coming in, management taking more responsibility, you know, whatever it is. I think there's probably an option in there worth exploring.
Definitely. And I think the acquisition market on our side is also quite buoyant at the moment. There's been quite a lot of acquisition over this period of time. There's also lots of other business models that are available as well to give people support in business if they don't have the back office service. So I think there are lots of different answers. But yes, I think I'll probably have that conversation more than I thought I would this year. I think because particularly when things were going on into the kind of second part of the lockdown last year. So I think
the other thing, just sorry to interrupt you, Kerry, the other thing that I think is really important right now is we've been thinking about exit is, it's quite easy. You sell up, you pay 10, excuse me, you pay 10% tax on what you sell it for. Entrepreneurs relief applies in most situations. Well, it used to be a £10 million lifetime allowance. So if you sold for up to 10 million, and if it was two of you, 20 million, you only pay 10% tax. That's been cut to £1 million each. So that's immediately reduced that tax saving opportunity. So you'll pay 10% on the first million and 20% on the rest. Still not a bad tax deal. And therefore you go, well, that's not bad. I'll sell when I'm ready. I think that may well change because A, they might withdraw entrepreneurs relief altogether. It's a bit of a soft tax saving that you're only giving to people who are selling businesses for a chunk of money. It's not really a vote loser to get rid of it. B, they've got to raise a ton of money to pay for the COVID pandemic, and capital gains tax is a soft target. And they have been talking about, it depends who you listen to, but certainly in the professional press that I read, there have been conversations about it being aligned with income tax, so potentially CGT at 40% tax rate or even higher. So if you're thinking, oh, I don't want to go yet, I'll hang on a bit, and you're comparing what you would pay in tax today to an unknown tax bill in 2 years' time, you might spend another 2 or 3 years building the business, working really hard to get a bigger exit price, but lose more than that in the tax rates if the tax rates go up, as they probably will. Now, I don't have a crystal ball. No one has that crystal ball, but is it likely tax rates will go down? No, it's only likely they will go up. So I think right now, timing-wise, that's an important thought process for some of your members to go through is, if I wait too long, do I end up losing out for a tax regime that currently is very good for me because it's got to change going down in the future?